They are definitely the second best team in Alabama, but over the last 5 weeks, they're the second best team in the state of Alabama, but they also might be playing like the second best team in the nation. 5 consecutive wins for the Auburn Tigers, and the latest is today's conquest at Ole Miss over the Rebels, 40-29. So take this, 5 consecutive wins for Auburn, and they were all impressive and have been impressive. So yes, Alabama's the gold standard in college football this season. They are playing the best, but over the last 5 weeks, is anybody else playing better than Auburn? All right, Cameron Petway, the sophomore, didn't carry the football last year, didn't see the field, and he has been a workhorse. He's been explosive. He's been dominant in the run game for Auburn over the last 3 weeks, culminated by this effort against the Rebels, 30 carries for 236 and a touchdown. Last 2 weeks prior against Mississippi State, 39 carries, 163 yards and a touchdown. And in the demolition on the Plains against Auburn, against Arkansas, 27 carries for $192 and 2 touchdowns. Again, Cameron Petway not seeing much action, didn't carry the ball in the opener against Clemson, but he is the man in the ground game for the Auburn Tigers. It was a defensive performance again that despite all the passing yards from Chad Kelly, Auburn made the stops when it needed to, especially in a decisive 13-0 run in the fourth quarter. During the preseason, we knew that Auburn had one of the best defensive lines in college football. After seeing the Tigers against the Tigers of Clemson, one of the explosive offenses in the nation, we knew that they had the complete defense. But it starts up front on the defensive front with Carl Lawson, 9 sacks this year, 9 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks. Montravius Adams, we talked much about him, 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. Marlon Davidson contributing with 2.5 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. So we knew the defensive front, we talked about it all off season, would be great. But the defense in its entirety, one of the top 10 units in the nation. They've got the 4-game winning streak working. They've got the run game that we talked about with Cameron Petway. Explosive plays occasionally in the pass game, but more than that, they've been efficient in the pass game. Sean White has not thrown a meaningful interception since the Clemson game. He has only thrown 1, and that came against Mississippi State in a 24-point rout. Sean White on this day, 247 yards, 1 touchdown, and no picks. I don't believe in comparative scores, but when you've got a collection of comparable scores against common opponents, then maybe you can draw some conclusions. So Alabama and Auburn have played the same 3 opponents in the SEC Western Division. We're talking Texas A&M that defeated the Tigers on the Plains by 13. And, of course, Alabama handled Texas A&M in the fourth quarter after it was a tight game, 14-13 into the third quarter. So 1 up for Bama there. But against Ole Miss, Bama had to hang on. They trailed by 21 in the first half. They roared back, and they had to hang on for the win in Oxford. We saw what Auburn did in definitely not dominating, but being the significantly better team in Oxford today. So 1 up for the Auburn Tigers, and then the tiebreaker before the real tiebreaker at the Iron Bowl against Arkansas. Alabama led that game 28-7 in Fayetteville. They coasted home for the win. They were rarely threatened, but Arkansas made plays, and it was a 19-point win for Alabama, 49-30. We saw the demolition, 56-3. Auburn over a beat-up Arkansas team, a less fresh Arkansas team that had to face Auburn. It's Vandy next week. Of course, they've got Georgia as well. They've got an out-of-conference game to tune up for Alabama. We are not predicting right now. We'll predict it that week, of course, the Auburn-Alabama game, and to see whether the Tigers have a shot against the Tide. But for right now, look over the last 5 weeks of college football. Nobody outside the state of Alabama playing better than the Auburn Tigers. Let's talk it up right here on Mark Rogers TV.